Welcome to Grey Duck Indoors Podcast. This podcast brings together young, enthusiastic individuals who are passionate about the outdoors and what Mother Nature has to offer. Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of Grey Duck Indoors, which is going to be the podcast related to Grey Duck Outdoors and is going to be bringing you content pretty much about everything that I have to do outdoors and activities that I enjoy. So first off, we're going to talk about Duluth city hunting and Hermantown city hunting, just city hunting in general. I've got two special guests here today. I got
Cameron Bruce
and Thomas Rients.
You want to just tell everybody where you guys are from and just a little what you're studying here at school or something?
So I'm from Zimmerman, Minnesota. It's about a half an hour north of the cities, and going to school currently for civil engineering.
I'm from Waterville, Minnesota, bullhead capital of the world, and I'm going to school for civil engineering too, same with Brucey.
Alright folks, so this year we actually all participated in a city hunt. I was in Hermantown, I was the only one. One other guy was hunting with us, kind of Trevor, who's not here tonight. He's playing hockey, gonna win that championship intramurals. But yeah, so we all hunted in the city hunt, and these guys hunted in Duluth, so did Trevor. And they actually kind of had different set steps to becoming legal to hunt in the cities. So for me, it was pretty simple. In Hermantown, you have to go to the police station. You have to just present ID, fill out some paperwork, and you get a card that says you can hunt in the entire city of Hermantown. And for these guys, a little different. One of you guys want to tell me what that process was like?
Yeah, for us, we had to pass a test in a 5-spot target. We had to get 4 out of 5 arrows in that target at 20 yards. And then we had to pass another online test that was just basic hunter safety.
Yeah, it was a bow hunter safety course that we had to take online. In order to hunt in the city. And yeah, like Thomas was talking about, the test where you had to shoot 5 arrows. It's a proficiency test.
Proficiency test, that's what it's called.
Yeah, and we just had to go to the local tackle shop, shoot 5 arrows. Shoot 5 arrows. We had to get 4 within a 6-inch diameter circle at 20 yards.
So then, when you guys were licensed and legal hunters in the city, you guys were given zones, and how did that work? Did you pick the zone you wanted to get, or?
Well, since we
It
were
was a
new,
lottery night.
since we were new hunters, we got to check or pick our first 5, and then usually we didn't get those, so then we got a list of whatever zone was left over, and we just randomly picked whichever one we thought would be the best one.
But if you get permission on...
If we get permission on any private land, though, throughout the city of Duluth, we can hunt that, even if it is out of our zone.
Yeah, and so the cities, they provide maps on locations where you can't hunt. There are specific properties, such as school grounds and stuff, where you can't hunt. And then, like in Hermantown, for example, half of the city is you must have 5 acres or more on a parcel. And if you don't, which I'll get to on my property to begin with, you have to just do a little bit different stuff. So I think we should start with preparation. So I was kind of a little late to the ball on getting the whole city hunt thing figured out. I just kind of decided last second that I wanted to do it and got legal in Hermantown. Bruce and I went to Menards, picked out a stand, picked up a salt block, picked up a camera, picked up a safety harness, just kind of got all the stuff, and I went and just threw it up in, I think, a week before season maybe.
Yeah.
But you guys had a little more preparation.
Well, see, we had to apply by January 30th.
Oh, really?
So we already knew from the get-go that we were going to be hunting, so we had some more time to prepare, And
so what did you do when were you given your land that you could hunt in, like your zone that you were put in?
So there was a lottery night, like what Thomas was saying earlier, and so yeah, like we could choose between 5 hunting zones, and then we were chosen to hunt one of those hunting zones where we could hunt the public land. And I can't remember when that was exactly. Do you remember, Thomas?
Yeah, we got emailed what zones we were in, like the end of July, early August.
Yeah.
That's when we kind of figured it out. And we couldn't hang stands till the last
August
weekend
25th.
in August.
Yeah.
So did you guys get out scouting right away then, or how did you guys go about that process?
First weekend in college, me and Trevor went out and we started scouting my land. It was pretty thick, so we just tried to find areas that were clear, because that was before all the leaves dropped.
Yeah, I went out probably about the same time that you did. Just walked out on some public land by myself, and just tried to find openings. Everything was still really thick, yeah. So just get up, see how the land was like and possible places to put stands in the future, So that's what I did.
Okay, so, and for stand locations and strategy, I was kind of fortunate. I have a good longtime family friend who lives in Hermantown, and so I got a parcel of land, but it was only 1.5 acres. And like I was saying, you have to have 5 acres to legally hunt in the part of the city that I was in. So what I had to do is you have to get a connecting piece of land that would, with the 2 properties together, would equal the total 5 acres. So I went to one of the neighbors who had 10 acres, and I said, hey, I'm hunting so-and-so's land, and I got permission to hunt there. I'm going to hang my stand there. I just need, X amount of acres to meet the 5 acre requirement. Would you be willing to sign my paper? And sure, he was happy to do so. And glad to see young kids out there hunting. I think a lot of people are glad to see that. But I did find
for sure
later in the season that it was a little more difficult to find permission, because I guess there are quite a few people who like to hunt just in their own backyard or so, because there are a lot of big bucks in the city of Duluth.
Yeah, there's some nice deer for sure.
So
Very
I
nice
ended
deer.
up hanging my stand on kind of a little ridge line that was just above a small creek. I kind of thought bucks were going to be traveling down the creek bed, but I hung a camera in there, put a salt block up in there, almost got nothing, and I've been finding now that it snowed that all the deer actually cruise the very top of the ridge line through the backyards of the houses, which I thought was really odd. I was a little more close to some houses than these 2 were, but now I'm in a new location here trying to finish out the season. I'm still going strong, haven't killed my buck yet, but I have some really nice deer on camera. I think I found a good spot for next year, but I am also in kind of a funnel point between 2 swamps where it's thickly dense woods, and they all cruise through there, made a scrape line, just headed to a new bedding area. So where did you guys decide to hang your stands, and why?
So on the hunting zone where I hunted this fall, there was 3 bigger chunks of public land that I could choose from.
How did you know it was public land? Did you use Onyx by chance?
I did. I did use Onyx.
That is one heck of an app. Let's plug
is.
Onyx. This is not sponsored by Onyx, but let me tell you, folks, if you hunt and hunt public like we do, you gotta get Onyx. That stuff is awesome.
Very handy, that's for sure. Yeah, so I just walked around those 3 pieces of public land. Found one piece to be nicer than the other 2. It seemed like there was more openings and wasn't as thick as the other 2 that I'd walked. And but that piece was landlocked, so there's a development on the south side of the public land, and there was other people's properties on the west side. And I ended up getting permission from a guy on the west side of a piece of public land just to walk through his property to access the public land. So for the most part, I hunted up there a majority of the early season, and then what I did is I walked through just it was an empty lot of the development to the south, and accessed the public land from there, and found a pretty decent spot and had some luck down there. So it was pretty much just what I was able to access is where I set up right away, and then I was able to access more of the public land as I went on throughout the season. So, but
all right, and before we get to Thomas's story, stay tuned, folks. We are going to get to our success stories, so wait on. We'll get to that at the end, and then you'll get to hear about our boys killing monster bucks here in Duluth. So, Thomas, let's hear how you kind of planned your stand location and what your kind of strategy was going forward.
So I started off scouting. I just found a main trail that was traveled, and I put a camera out there. And then for a week, I had a doe go by every day at 8:30. So I hunted out
in the morning or
morning
8 a.m. Okay.
So then I just hunted out of climber for the first 2 weeks till I got that one. And after I shot that doe, it ran down a hill, and that's when I discovered a bigger clearing, just a little prairie area, and then just some more birch trees where it was a lot clearer, and there's a line of scrapes down there. So that's where I ended up hanging the stand I hunted out of later that I actually shot my buck out of.
All right. I think all of us saw quite a few deer this year. Also, Trevor, who's not here, he got some land, and he was working where he found a bunch of trails meet together kind of, and just he found a location where a bunch of trails crossed. I know that's what he kind of did. He made a mock scrape in front of that just to get some deer to stop in front of it, get some pictures, and he had some giant bucks. Maybe we'll drop a picture here, maybe we won't. I don't know. We'll have to get his permission, but he had some studs. Anyways, he just kind of looked for a lot of trails that kind of met in one area, hung a stand up there, and was pretty successful. He shot a nice deer, which we will show right there. And since he's not here to talk about it, but I can share that story later because I was kind of involved a little bit with taking photos and whatnot. So, since you guys were successful, I think next what we'll move forward to is like, what did you guys learn hunting the city, and kind of what will you do differently next year? What are you going to bring forward as far as methods or things you learned, and maybe like what was some things that you learned didn't work, just to help the folks out there who maybe want to get into city hunting. It's a little different than hunting private or even just hunting public, because like today I had dogs barking, snowplows going, kids yelling. I mean, it's a totally different. Activity. I can see the roof of a house. My first stand location was about 50 yards, and my next one I have a house maybe 60, 75 yards. So I'm right in there by some neighborhoods, and it's just a different environment. So has anyone got any tips that they really...
Yeah, well, you see a lot of dogs in the woods. I see one about every week, chases some deer away, so you just kind of got to be patient with those. And then rattling works really good in the city because there's not much land for the deer to live in, so the bucks are really territorial, so it's pretty easy to rattle them in. I had about a 2-week period where I rattled one in about every day.
And you've been seeing a lot of deer lately. Do you remember what that count is?
Yeah, since the last 7 days I've seen 34 deer, and I've sat I think 7 times.
I'm not sure I've seen 34 deer all year, to be completely honest.
I have
That's
not.
a lot of deer. He's got a good property, that's for sure. But
yeah.
What about you? Any tips that you can think of right now?
Well, I was actually kind of farther out from being in the city, so I didn't have that much human activity. I could hear people talking and obviously cars going by. I was pretty close to the highway, so definitely hear cars going by. But things I learned, definitely paying attention to the wind is very important to deer hunting. Very important.
Yeah, that's something.
The wind.
I had never really archery hunted. I had a
and
few
where to
times.
set up your stand, depending on the wind.
Yeah, thinking of prevailing wind directions, or maybe having an option to hunt a certain location if you have an opposite wind. But yeah, I had never really bow hunted before. Actually, I hunted twice or 2 or 3 times in high school. But with football and just school and everything going on, it was tough to get to my property, which was an hour away. And what about you? Did you do any bow hunting previous to this year?
No, this spring was the first spring I ever even shot a bow, so I've been shooting for like 6 months, and that's about it.
Yeah, I hunted in high school, but definitely not as much as I did this year. Yeah, like
this was your first bow kill, correct?
Correct.
So all of us shot our first deer this year, and also with the city hunt, it's a management hunt, so you are required to earn a buck. You have to shoot a doe before you can kill a buck, which is a really good way for the city to just kind of manage the population. You can also donate your deer, right? I think Charlestrom's has a deal with that, right? You can enter it into a drawing.
Then you get put into a drawing for a bow. We have not done. None of us have done that yet.
No,
so
not yet.
Yeah, you can donate your deer. It goes to a good cause, helps some people out, and it's just a fun way to get out there, reduce the population of the city deer a little bit, and there are some true giants, which we have found out. But
seen a couple.
So yeah, wind direction. It's kind of a funny point you bring that up. It's really important, especially from where you are. But like for me, I think one of the things that's really beneficial to hunting these city deer is that they are a little desensitized in some way. Like, when a car door slams, they don't necessarily jump and they're not gone. When a car honks, they're not running. When a dog barks, if a dog's chasing them, like in your case, they're gonna buggy out of there. But yeah, I mean, the wind. If they smell you immediately, I think right down your wind direction, they're a little hesitant. But sometimes with the wind blowing off those houses and stuff, I think they don't necessarily... It's not easy by any chance, especially not a mature buck, but it's a little different than, I would say, hunting the true wilderness.
Yeah, no, it's definitely different, yeah, but...
Alright, folks, we are going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about a little bit more about what the pros and cons were in the city hunt. So stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back. Welcome to the first break. I am going to try to have a topic-specific fun fact or tip whenever we have a break. And for this podcast, I found that in an article posted by Newsmax, across the state of Minnesota, the average bow hunter harvests a deer every 7.5 years, while in the Duluth City Hunt, the average hunter kills 2 deer per season. That puts the city hunter at an average of 15 deer to every 1 harvested outside of city limits. I don't know about you, but those odds make city hunting sound pretty enticing. Alright everybody, welcome back to the Grey Duck Indoors podcast. Before we begin our next little segment here, we are going to have a little photo op or photo contest on Instagram and Facebook. I'd like to see your guys' deer that you got this year, whether that be with a rifle or a bow. Tag me on Instagram at Jackson_Nash. I'll put a little link in the bottom. And also, or on Facebook at Grey Duck Outdoors. I have my page on there. Tag me in there, hashtag Grey Duck Outdoors. I'd love to check them out and see them. Just want to see any deer you shot, whether it's your first deer, your 15th deer, your dad's deer, your grandpa's deer. If you've posted already, just tag me in it. And if you haven't yet, post it because, you know, we all love to see that stuff.
Love to see them.
So let's segue into our next discussion points. I guess we kind of delved into that at the end of that last segment there, but what do you guys think are kind of the pros and cons to hunting in the city and hunting this public land rather than, you know, hunting on where you guys maybe hunt with your rifles or your own private land or however you guys do that?
The deer are more concentrated here. That's one nice thing.
It's a lot. There's a lot of deer, yeah.
Yeah. Another thing, I guess that's not kind of a nice thing, is they're used to human scent, cars. Like, you don't have to be completely quiet, or you stink. Then it doesn't matter as much either because they're used to that human smell. Because
only off your stand.
Yeah, only a half mile away, there's a whole neighborhood that they can smell. So that's one nice thing.
Definitely the cons. You're hunting public land, so there could be other hunters there, people walking through, dogs running through.
Snowmobile trails, walking trails.
Or Trevor, he had some dirt bikers and ATVers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Running right by his stand. Yep. Yeah, I guess since I did have a private piece in town, I had a little bit different opportunity. There's actually not really any public land in Hermantown to hunt. There was maybe 1 or 2 pieces, but not, and it wasn't a lot of land, which was kind of disappointing. I expected there to be a little bit more just open to anyone to go hunt because it was difficult to find land. I think this past week or so I knocked on about 20 doors and got permission on 1 5-acre parcel, which is an acre wide and 5 acres long. But so it's like
holding some deer.
It has some absolute monsters. I will tell you that. Maybe I'll drop some pics on my Facebook page, and I'll let you guys know about that. But yeah, I think one pro for me would be the proximity to our house. It was really awesome. Wake up. That was 15-minute drive, and you're at the deer stand, and you're walking in from a road. I don't know, you probably had the furthest walk in, but I know my first stand location was 50 yards from the house, so I'd pull up in the driveway, 50 yards, I'm in my stand, I'm up in there, quiet, quick, fast, and like I said, car door slamming, that's all not that big a deal. You didn't have that far of a hike in, did you?
No, I had about 200-yard walk, so it was not too bad at all. Down a hill, so that was nice, going up the hill.
Yeah, and with going to school, it's so nice, especially in Duluth, which is a fairly laid-out city. It's not a massive city by population by any means, but it's you know, it's got a big footprint. It's nice that you don't have to buzz all the way out of town or hit one of those public lands that's right on the edge of town. I mean, you can hunt right, if you wanted to. I think Trevor had a piece, a block or 2 west of our house. I mean, you can hunt really close to your own property. We had a nice buck in our front yard for a while.
A couple weeks ago.
It was very tempting not to just pull the bow out of the car and see if I could get it done, but I didn't. I held back. But yeah, it's just, I think that's one of the biggest pros for me is just proximity to the house. It's so easy to get off class at 2, run to the stand, and you're in it, like I did today. Hunted for a couple hours.
Or hunt in the morning and then always run to class at like 10. Did that quite a bit too.
Yeah, it's really nice, especially being, you know, pretty busy students trying to get involved like we do, you know, being in the Rod and Gun Club. Shout out to the Rod and Gun Club. That's a good group of guys. If any of you guys are considering going to UMD or any university in that matter, if you can get involved with like-minded individuals who like to hunt and fish or like the outdoors or whatever you're into, I think that's pretty good opportunity, and I'm glad that we have that. We have some good upperclassmen who've really kind of paved the way for us. So
yeah, for sure.
A lot of them are involved in the city hunt. I haven't seen any pictures yet. I don't know if
I don't think I've even
No,
asked them.
They mostly all got their does, but none of them had any luck with bucks yet.
Yeah, I know. Opening day, one of the upperclassmen had a stud walk by him
15
multiple
yards.
times, 15 yards. I would say 150 plus inch deer.
Yeah, that thing was big.
And he was recording on Snapchat, sending us videos, but didn't
a
have his doe yet. That would be a tough one. That would be hard to hold back. That was a giant.
Nice deer,
Nice.
yeah.
But yeah, I think maybe one con for me was getting permission, and then when you do get permission, a lot of the properties are so small. All the big properties are claimed already, and all the other ones are so tiny. Getting a 1.5 acre piece, getting a 5 acre piece, it's not a lot to work with. Deer are gonna work through there, but you're obviously not gonna hold deer. And in the city, like you were saying earlier, they are pretty territorial about these little chunks. But like they will, I don't know how far they travel.
They do cover some ground.
It'd be fun to see because just in the past week here, we're kind of getting to that late rut period where I think the older bucks are still cruising for those last estrus does. All the little bucks have kind of dropped out of the game, but those bucks are cruising. I'm betting they're putting on miles. I wouldn't be surprised if that buck wasn't, halfway across the
cool to
woods.
see how far they do travel.
It'd be really interesting.
Yeah, I've had a number of bucks I've seen the past week that I've not seen on camera. All fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so were you guys concerned at all about leaving your stands on public land or your cameras? It just kind of brought that into my mind now.
Trail cams I was probably most worried about just because
Yeah.
it's an electronic. People
Pretty
steal
quick to
those.
grab.
Yeah, it'd be quick and easy. But so far, I've had people on my trail camera, but no one's took it yet, so knock on wood.
I had someone on my camera too, took my scent drip. I was a little sad about that. Little young kid though, but what do you do?
Yeah, I had nobody on my camera, but yeah, right away putting it out, I was a little nervous. You don't know who's going to walk through there and possibly see.
You're basically hanging a
Trail
$50
cam.
bill, $100 bill, whatever you
Right.
got on the tree stand, come get me kind of. If
Yeah.
they can see it.
Yeah, they are tough
if
to
they
find
can
though.
see it, yeah.
But yeah, I was kind of curious about that. I know people get a little personal about these hunting properties. If they've been hunting, say like the zone you're in for a while, and they see a stand, I was kind of wondering how they'd get, if they'd get a little
They
irritated.
just tear it down, just
You just kind of got to keep your distance from them.
'Cause you never know.
where you're hunting.
Yeah, and I think they do a pretty good job. The city does. It's pretty well ran that they split up the hunters pretty evenly between all the different zones and try to get it like that. And I know a lot of the properties, if they said they had a guy hunting there or two, I would say that's fine. I'd let them hunt that. I don't want to intrude on a 30 acre piece. A couple guys gets to be a lot.
Right, yeah.
But other than that, I don't think there weren't really that many cons to me. It was a pretty freaking cool experience, I would say.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. No doubt.
Oh yeah.
I think we all shot our first deer. Trevor had shot some deer before, but he did shoot a stud this year, which was cool to see. We all shot our first doe with a buck. These two both got their first, or doe with a bow, sorry. These two both got their first buck with a bow.
There we go.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
why don't we dive into that? I think I'll start since I have probably the most lame story, and I'm still hunting for my buck, but my doe, I shot on the second day of season. It was in the evening, middle of the afternoon, I think.
2% chance of shooting that
3
deer.
o'clock. Yeah, we were joking that I had a 2% chance to shoot a deer going into the stand because these guys had tons of pictures of deer. Does. Bruce had a ton of bucks right away.
Yeah.
I don't know
right
if you
away,
did.
I didn't have a buck till October.
But
End
Bruce,
of October.
first week he put his camera up, I think you had 4 or 5 nice 8s at least.
Yeah.
But
There's
so these-
one that was real nice. Yeah.
And it's still on your cam, so that's a good thing to
It's
see.
on my trail cam.
But yeah, I didn't have a single deer on my trail camera, I don't think. I had just kind of hung my stand up. I was feeling a little down about it. I said, you know what, I'm going to go sit out there, but I have a 2% chance to kill a deer. And sure enough, got up in the stand. I hunted morning, evening, morning of the next day, and I went out that evening, which I have a YouTube video kind of the experience. I don't really have the proper way to film from the tree stand yet, so I'm working on that, but I do have just kind of a little bit of the experience before and after the kill. And anyways, got up in the stand. It was sunny, and there was literally no wind. I was a little concerned about how my scent was just kind of dispersed with the little amount of wind we had and maybe just hang in the area. And at the time, I had only shot up to 20 yards at Charleston's in their indoor range, and I didn't really have a further shot at my stand anyways because the foliage was still all there and it was still pretty green.
It's pretty thick up here.
It is very thick up
It
here.
is, yeah.
But I was sitting in the stand. I had busted out the grunt call, I think, because I was getting bored. I ripped a couple grunts, at does, which is, I don't know why I was doing that, but I heard a twig snap to my left. So I grabbed my bow, strapped my release on. I don't wear my release in the stand always, which is not the best idea. But strapped my release on, got ready, was sitting there with my bow, and I looked to the left, and a doe is walking from behind me in the left, and it is at about 10 yards. And it comes out of a very thick spot of like red willows with a bunch of green leaves around them and a lot of ferns. So it's pretty thick. I just saw its head kind of peek through. It weaved, and my heart was racing. Having a deer at 10 yards for the first time with a bow in your hand, knowing that you need to shoot this doe because you do not know when that big buck's going to walk by. And if you haven't got your doe yet, you're SOL. So I looked at that, and it walked about 5 yards forward and was perfectly parallel with me, and it just stops, and it's staring directly at me. I could have swore it was looking right through me. And it stomped its feet a few times, bobbed its head to the side, tried to get me to move. It didn't snort or blow, so I'm not sure if it smelled me. Maybe it just saw me a little bit, but I was pretty well camouflaged, and it was a little leery. It just kind of skirted around my stand. I had a salt block and a camera, and it on a trail, and it kind of skirted around that trail, ended up curling back in front of me. I hadn't even ranged it yet because I didn't want to move. I guesstimated that it was about 20 yards, ended up being 23 yards, and I put the pin on it. It was walking. I had about a 1 foot gap between two trees. I gave a little burp, and it stopped in its tracks, let an arrow fly, and I knew I had made a perfect shot. I kind of second guessed myself, but I had those nocturnals in pink, and they light up excellent. And I saw that arrow go right into it. I knew I had made a pretty good shot. I was so nervous and so excited. I called my dad. I was shaking so bad. I thought I was going to fall out of the tree stand. And so I climbed down right away. Went to grab my arrow, soaked, bubbles, blood. It was a perfect lung shot. And I got in my car and I just drove home to get my gear and to wait for Bruce because I was so nervous I couldn't wait there anymore. I mean, I was just so excited.
We couldn't believe it, honestly.
We could not believe that I shot the first deer. And I had a kid bow, a bow I got when I was in 4th grade. I was pulling 50 pounds, which at the time was enough, I guess, for the doe. It actually broke through ribs and a little of the front shoulder, I think, on the exit wound. But yeah, it did the job, and it was a great first experience for me.
Good shot.
Since then, I didn't hunt for about a month after that. I hadn't really had any bucks on my camera, which is where I really made the mistake. I should have ran and got some new permission on land. I mean, I really wasn't seeing any bucks. I got one stud, but he's never there. And now I'm just drowning in bucks. After the rut, I missed on an opportunity because you guys both shot your deer on the same day.
Yep.
But so
early November.
We'll get to that. And anyways, it was a great experience for me. I just enjoyed bow hunting in general. I'm a diehard fan of bow hunting now. I can see myself bow hunting for the rest of my life. I think this is definitely a changing period for myself. Actually looking forward to possibly doing a bow hunting trip with these fellas. So with that being said, who wants to go first and share their kind of story? Should we start with does?
I think we should, yeah.
Yeah,
start with does.
Yeah.
Should we do doe, then buck?
Yeah.
Alright, let's
do that. I'll go with my doe. So I was hunting out of a climber, just climbed out one morning, and about 8:30 rolls around, and 2 does and 3 fawns come racing up from the bottom of the hill. Like, there was walkers to the woods, probably had a dog, and chased them right behind me, like at 25 yards. And they're blowing and stomping and looking around because they know someone chased them in the woods. So they then I tried turning around, clinked my bow on the stands. Oh, they're all staring straight at me. So about 20 minutes later, they finally decide to move a little bit. And slowly they file one by one right in front of me. And I passed on the first doe, was going too fast, couldn't get it stopped. 3 fawns came. I didn't want to shoot one of them, so I passed on them. So then that last doe came, and I knew I had to shoot that one no matter what. So it's coming in front of me at like 23 yards, 24. And I tried to get it to stop. Still doesn't stop. So it's walking pretty slow. Let an arrow fly. And like I didn't know if I hit it at first or what was going on. So I went down, found the arrow. Just the blood just sprayed all over the ferns and everywhere. So I just decided might as well just let it go die or whatever, lay down. So I went to class, came back 2 hours later, and it made it like 30 yards down the hill. Perfect hard shot. So that was a pretty good first experience bow hunting. I was shaking just nuts. When
I
I got it, I
couldn't
was
believe-
just shaking. It was easily the best hunt I ever been on.
Having
at
that,
point.
even a doe, it's
Even a
not
doe.
even your biggest buck or whatever, but you
Oh,
have
yeah.
that deer
Right.
10 yards away, big game animal, and you want to put it, you want to put it down because you want to get your buck, and it is just intense.
When was that you shot
That was, it was probably late September when that happened.
Yeah.
So like second, third weekend in a bow hunt season.
Alright, so I'll describe my doe that I shot. So I shot my doe, it was later in the season. It's kind of weird I wasn't going to be able to shoot a doe and, have an opportunity at a buck. So it was getting so late. But, so I was hunting up at this one spot for a while. And then I decided to move. So it was like the northwest part of this public land that I was hunting. That's where I was hunting initially. And then I decided to move to the southeast part of the public land. Moved down there. It was maybe the second or third day hunting at that stand location. It was about 6:15 at night. Just starting to get dark. I had about 15 minutes left of shooting time, I think, maybe half an hour left. Really windy. Just hoping to see something. I wasn't going to hear anything. But all of a sudden I saw some movement. There was a doe and two fawns came running up. She walked 20 yards away. Pulled back, let an arrow fly. Knew I hit the deer. I could see that I hit the deer. Gave it half an hour, 45 minutes. Then climbed down, looked at the arrow. No blood. Just full of brown, green guts. I was so disappointed. I thought I, hit it right in the guts. Trevor came up then. We looked for it for maybe half an hour or something. It was completely dark. Didn't find it. Decided just to go the next day, and ended up finding it. Made a pretty good shot, but it was turned towards me more than I had thought. I thought it was broadside, but it was turned towards me more than I thought. So the arrow exited out through the guts, but no blood.
But hit the vitals initially.
Hit the vitals, yeah. So yeah, that was a really cool experience. So yeah, shaking like a leaf on a tree. It was crazy.
I think the other day I was sitting in the stand and I had a deer come from behind me again, and I couldn't hear it with the wind until it was about 15 yards away. And when I heard the first snow crunch, I didn't know what it was, but I just got my heart. You could think the deer could hear your heart beating. It's so loud.
Yeah, you can feel your heart pumping.
But
for sure.
I guess before we get to their buck stories, I do have a buck story, which I'm not very proud of. This was a couple days ago, Friday, first day in the stand that I put up, and I had a nice 8-point. Actually, it was a 10-point. I found out. I thought it was an 8-point. I didn't get a good look at it, only through the trees, but I had a nice 10-point come up to me. I could not hear it. The wind was howling 20 miles an hour, and it came up right behind me. I was so cold, I put a glove on my left hand to grab my bow, and I was just seeing how I could fit the glove into the wrist strap on my bow, and it fit good. I got it all tightened on the right setting, and I picked up my bow just to see how it felt in my hand, and the deer was standing 12 yards, broadside, clear lane, just over my left shoulder. And when I did that, he saw me, blew, turned, booked it, stopped at about 45 yards, 50 yards, but through some brush. If I had a gun, probably would have poked at it, but there was no chance I was going to shoot my bow through that. And he was gone. He's back on my trail camera again, so it's not the worst sign, but I definitely blew my one experience so far.
But I had a very similar story, just like that. Before I shot my doe, I was up in my tree stand, stood up and readjusted my hat, turn around, hear a deer crashing, turn around, doe running. So I had that same experience.
But it hurts a little more when it's a 10-pointer that you got video of, and he's a beautiful
don't
deer.
lose hope.
Yeah.
Still get that buck.
So who wants to share their buck story here before we get things wrapped up?
I'll start
Timmy?
with mine. Yep. Alright, so it was like November 1st I was out, and I had bucks on camera every day and night for about a week and a half. So I was seeing bucks nonstop. Then 2 days before I passed on an 8-pointer each day. So then that morning I passed on an 8 at about 7:30. 8 o'clock rolls around, and this other 8-pointer comes out of the woods, walking right in front of me broadside, like 25 yards, 20 yards. And I tried to get him to stop. He doesn't stop. I'm already pulled back. And I just let an arrow fly, and it hits the deer, and you just hear a big old crack. And, like, it only went in, like, not even halfway. I just hit, like, straight shoulder blade, so I knew I screwed up right there. And I could just see the arrow hanging out of the deer as it's running away. And it fell out, like, 30 yards down the trail. So I went and found that arrow. Not much blood at all. So I just left, went to class, ate dinner, came back at 2 in the afternoon to look for it. So I go down the trail where I thought it ran, no blood, nothing. So I just do one big circle through my, like, where I last saw it. And I ended up finding one patch of blood that was about the size of that. And then I found a couple more drops, another patch same size. Kept on going, followed blood trail for like 30 yards. Not much blood, but enough. And then I eventually ended up losing it. So then I just started going down random trails, like 20, 30 yards, just to see if it was laying somewhere. And then all of a sudden I see just this clump in a brush, and then like something shiny, which I thought was antlers that the sun was shining off of. So I have my bow in my hand, arrow nocked, so I start walking up to it. I get within 10 yards, head just pops straight up, and it's staring at me, and it's the buck I shot. Except it was just facing towards me, so I didn't have a shot at it. So I back out, go down the hill 20 yards, up and around to where it'd be broadside. So I get within 10 yards of it again.
He was just laying there?
Laying there.
Huh.
He would, like, I must have got him right, like,
very lucky.
halfway decent, because he wasn't going to get up if he didn't have to. So I got within 10 yards of him again, found a clear lane, and then shot right there while he was still laying down. And I could just see it. It was like slow motion, just like blood squirted out. He went running, and like I knew I was getting him there because he lost so much blood. I ended up waiting 40 minutes, tracking him about a quarter mile down a hill and then into a little woods. And then I found just a big old pool of blood, but no deer. And I'm like, what the heck happened there? And then just walked around a couple cedar trees, and there he was laying there. And he was probably the only thing that was separating him from a whole neighborhood of people was just one train track that he couldn't make it up, because I could hear kids playing, just people barbecuing. And
that probably would have been the best sight.
Yeah, no, that probably wouldn't have been the best thing going on, but I did end up finding him, so that was good. And that was the buck I hit that morning.
Yeah, it was a nice deer too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
pretty nice buck.
Packed it out on my shoulders, just like Cam Haynes.
Cam Haynes is our idol. Keep hammering. You should name this Keep Hammering podcast, Keep Hammering Junior podcast.
Yeah.
But so yeah, you guys actually both shot your bucks on the same day. We have a photo of them with their deer that I'll put in right here, and so that's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome when you get to double up with your buddy. Yeah. But so why don't you tell us your story though?
So my story, it was actually was it November 1st that you?
It was the day before rifle season.
Day before rifle season.
So it was.
The last
November
day,
2nd is when you shot.
I don't know.
The last day before the Orange Army hit the woods. I know that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
Well, okay, so it was the day before. I don't think it was Halloween.
No, it was not Halloween. It was the day after, wasn't it?
Yeah, day after Halloween. So it was the
November
first that I shot that.
Initially. Yeah. Okay, November 1st you first shot. Okay. Yeah.
So here, I'll explain how I shot my buck this fall. So I went out, it was the day after Halloween, November 1st. I went on the stand that morning, walked out there, really calm. There's fresh frost on the leaves, so it was really crunchy. Tried to be quiet walking out there, but that's pretty tough to do. So I walked out there, get up in my stand. I was putting that
safety harness.
Yeah, the safety harness up on the tree there, and see a silhouette of a deer walking in the distance. I was like, oh shoot. So grabbed my bow quick, got my release on, knocked an arrow, and I couldn't tell if it was a buck or a doe, but just quickly grabbed my grunt, called a few times, and
for those folks that are at home listening and maybe haven't used your grunt call or utilized one very well, what was your how did you approach it? What was your little sequence you popped at him?
So I went burp, then burp, and then just to finish it off, burp.
A sweet one at the end.
Oh yeah, sweet one. No, but I don't think I've ever called in a buck with a grunt before. But it was just insane. That deer was heading that way, and he just totally turned around. Came in 10 yards. And I couldn't tell. I could tell it was a buck when I was getting closer, but I couldn't tell if it was one that I wanted to shoot until it was right there. Somehow I was able to pull back without it seeing me. And it was still kind of dark. I shot. I thought I had a good shot. I saw it run off.
How far was your shot?
10 yards.
He ran right up to the tree, huh?
Oh, yeah. He was right there. And I don't know if it was because it was too dark or... I mean, obviously now I learned from that mistake. But anyway, so I waited like a half an hour, get down, see some blood, started tracking, just little drops of blood. Eventually the trail just dies. So I called up Trevor and these guys too. I was like, what do you guys think? They just said back out, wait. So backed out. I had class, so I went to class. Actually, I don't even know if I did go to class. Anyway.
Went home.
Yeah, went home.
Went to class. We'll tell your mom you went to class.
Yeah, went to class. A little bit later, me and Thomas went back out there. 6 hours later, actually. Went back out there. Started tracking it from where I left off. Didn't find the trail at all, so we just decided to start grid searching, see if we could find it. Started walking. Spooked a deer way off in the distance. So like, okay, whatever. But anyway, kept on walking, and then I see a buck 30 yards away from me, staring right at me. Didn't think anything of it. I had my bow with me, but didn't think anything of it. Runs away, and then we ended up finding fresh blood on this trail. So we knew that was that deer. Sadly, hadn't died after 6 hours, so I knew right then and there I didn't have a good shot. I mean, the arrow passed all the way through, but I think I shot way too low.
And at the angle you were at?
At the angle I was at, I should have shot higher up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a learning experience.
Exactly.
So we decided then and there just to back out and wait till the next day. That's our only... I mean, we could have kept pursuing it, but I feel like it was better just to let it go off, bed down, and die somewhere than to push it any farther than we already had. So we backed out.
Yeah, one thing you don't want to do is push it onto the highway or into town.
Exactly, yeah. I'm right next to the highway, and, if that thing ran across, or if somebody hit it.
Yeah, I feel pretty bad about that.
So yeah, we backed out, had to wait the whole night. A lot of anticipation. But the next morning, me and my roommate Isaac went out there, and we started tracking it again, and of course the blood trail died again. So we just grid searched for a couple hours, went back up to my stand, tried to look around there to see maybe if we could find blood trail that me and Thomas missed the day before. Didn't find anything. Started walking back to my truck. Isaac was a little ways away from me, and all of a sudden I see a buck 10 yards away. I know, what luck. And this time, I think maybe it's the buck I had shot. So I was able to, and I had my bow with me, of course. I was able to knock an arrow quick, and found a little opening in some brush, shot at it. Think I had a good shot, and then called Isaac. We walked over there then just to see if we could find any blood, good blood trail. Found the arrow, full of blood. And I just thought, might as well back out, give it some time. I heard some crashing, so I figured it died right away. I had a good shot, but just gave it some time, went to class, came back and found it about 40, 50 yards away from where I shot it. So, and sadly, it wasn't the same buck that I had shot the morning before. So, I mean, honestly, I feel like that deer probably survived.
It's probably just a flesh wound because there was a lot of white hair, like you're saying.
There was a lot of white hair.
There was any vitals that were hit.
I know. I'm thinking I just grazed it way too low.
Which the deer Trevor shot this year had a huge flesh wound on its shoulder. Someone had definitely shot it before.
Oh yeah.
Massive wound. But they can live through that stuff. It's unfortunate when things happen like that, but what can you do about it?
And yeah, the buck I shot was a 7-point.
Mine was a nice 8, decent.
And Trevor's was a 10, or was
yeah, Trevor's was
Trevor's was a 10.
His was a 10.
One question I had for you is when you shot your deer, when you were standing, so you were standing on the ground, right? Was the deer pretty parallel with you?
Yeah.
Was it uphill, downhill at all? Or just
it was about
pretty
level
parallel?
from-
So how did you find your arrow? I'm curious, does the arrow fall soon after?
Right, I know. I didn't even know if I was going to find my arrow, to be honest.
Because it passes through going parallel, and if it makes a clean pass through it, it's going to continue for a decent amount.
Right, exactly, yeah. So we were just trying to find some blood initially, and right away, like, I couldn't really find any blood. I was a little worried. But then started to find a blood trail and happened to find the arrow just right on the blood trail. And I'm thinking it passed all the way through.
Sure.
I mean, it seemed like it did, but yeah, it was
That's pretty
definitely
cool.
an insane experience, for sure.
Any last things you guys want to add to this?
It's completely different bow hunting than gun hunting.
Oh,
Not even comparable.
It's awesome.
Whole
it
different
is
game.
insane. It's a lot different.
Just like this past week, and it was the third week in a rifle season for me, we get 3 zones, and I chose to bow hunt because I just thought it is so fun, and it's such a cool experience. Being that close to a big game animal who's a 200-pound, potentially, animal, field dressed, and just having that within 10 yards of you, 20 yards of you, making a shot with the old stick and string is pretty awesome.
And it's a long season, so you get a lot of hunting time in. You're able to see a lot of deer.
Yeah. Hey, if any of you guys have any other questions about city hunting or bow hunting in general that you think maybe we haven't answered or that we could answer for you, feel free to shoot us a DM, send me an email. I'll include all of that in the description below. And yeah, I'll include these guys. Again, Brucey, Cameron Bruce, Colin Brucey, and Thomas. I'll put their links in here too so you guys can check them out. I'll post the pictures of their deer, our does, and Trevor's deer. And maybe we'll have to have Trevor on the show to tell his story. I don't want to tell that story. It's his story. But I was actually hunting when he shot, got the call, one of the best calls you want to get. Hey man, BBD, big buck down. So I headed over there with him. It was a good time. But before we conclude this, guys, always wear your safety harness. Can't stress that enough. That's not a call we want to get. That's not a message we want to hear about. Wear your safety harness. And be safe out there. Have fun, folks.
Good luck hunting.
Hope you enjoy bow hunting. Thanks for watching this episode of Grey Duck Indoors. I will be doing a segment next week, I believe, with Tom DeMars. I'm not going to give you the subject. Tom's a cool guy. See you then. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. However you prefer. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Grey Duck Indoors. For more content and for other future episodes, please check out my YouTube channel and my Instagram and Facebook page. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks again. Good luck hunting, fishing, and enjoying the outdoors.